everyone, and thank you for joining me here today on YouTube. I have a new tutorial for you in which we will create this little tool stand that I have on my table. For creating it, I've used a medium weight chipboard and the designer paper by Graphic 45 from the collection which is called Floral Shoppe. The toolbox has this interesting shape, and this is how it looks from the bottom, and these are the sides. It has this convenient handle for you to be able to carry the stand from one place to another. It has two compartments which are protected from getting dirty or scratched with these plastic inserts that I've created from acetate sheets. The tool stand can be used for practically anything that you would want to put inside, starting from pans and finishing with some glue bottles or spritzers, or I don't know, anything that you use in your studio. You can put some inking tools inside. You can use that for keeping your ink bottles, or well, anything, really anything. So I hope you like this, and if you do, I will be glad if you continue watching the tutorial and create the tool stand like this together with me. So let's do it. To prepare the parts for our tool stand, you will need a 12 by 12 sheet of medium weight chipboard, and also just a little additional piece which measures 2 3/8 of an inch by 5. And where is the focus? Here. Okay, so this piece you can just create from scraps. I'm sure you have those. As for this sheet over here is concerned, I will include a picture of the layout so that you can see how exactly you need to position each one of the pieces. And I would like to stop and explain how to make all the measurements for creating the side circular parts, as well as how to create the separator and a holder right here. So for that, I will use just plain printing paper, and I will show you how to draw and how to measure the pieces for the side panels. Okay, so we will work now on this section that I have right here. So for creating that, you will first measure and draw 2 squares which are 5 1/4 of an inch by 5 1/4. So I'm marking from both top and bottom, and I connect both of the marks to create a straight line. Okay, now I need to mark 5 1/4 on this side and 10 1/2, and the same on the top guideline, 5 1/4 and 10 1/2. Now I can connect these, and I will have 2 5 1/4 of an inch squares. Okay, now to find the middle of the square, you will just draw 2 diagonal guidelines from the opposing corners of each one of the squares, like that. And the intersection of those lines will be the center of our square. Okay, so this is the first thing to do. Now you will need a pair of compasses. Now you will need to measure 2.5 of an inch radius on the ruler, like that. Then you will position the needle at the point of intersection of two lines that we've created earlier, and you will draw a circle. One, and try to be very precise when you make all the measurements. Okay, and two. Great. Now we will need to cut off a certain part of the circle. So for doing that, I will first measure 5/8 of an inch from this side of the paper, or in your case that would be chipboard, or maybe if you are not sure how to do that, you should also train on plain paper first and only then to draw everything on the chipboard 12 by 12 sheet. Okay, so this line that I drew right now stands 5/8 of an inch away from the bottom side of the paper. So once you have that done, you can start cutting everything out. So once I have my circle cut out, I will trim that section that I showed you before off to create to get the piece that looks like this. So we will need 2 of those pieces. Okay, so for cutting the chipboard, once again I will use these scissors from Tim Holtz. So let me quickly cut the chipboard pieces out, and I think I will speed this up on video, so you will only be able to see how exactly I do that, but I will not give any more explanations as I've already given them just a second ago. And here we go, both of the pieces are ready. You can make sure that they are equal in size, and you can use the sanding tool if you have one, just to make sure that the edges are smooth and round. I'm not pushing too hard, I'm just gently touching the surface, and I'm moving this piece in my hands in order to rotate it. Okay, so that's all you have to do right now. These are the pieces that we will continue to work with, but first we need to prepare a few more elements for our stand. Since the pieces here for the bottom and one of the front parts of the box are plain rectangular shape, I will cut them out right now, and then we will concentrate on preparing the last piece for our stand, which is a handle. Okay, now we'll put these aside, and we will work now on this piece. So it's a rectangular shape, and the measurement that you start with is 5.5 by 5. So let me do it here. 5. Once again, I will just create a template in order to show you what's the correct way of creating all the measurements for the element of the stand. Okay, and now 5.5, and this is the piece that I'll start to work with. 5.5 by 5. So first I will need to find the center, and I will draw a guideline, so it will be at 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches away from either left or right side of the rectangle that we have. I will mark the point that will be at 3 1/8 of an inch from the top of the rectangle on the central guideline. This is here, and it is at 3 1/8 of an inch away from the top. Now I will mark another, I will create another guideline that will be 1 1/4 of an inch away from the top of our piece. And now I will create 2 more that will be 5/8 of an inch away from the guideline that we just created before that. Okay. In other words, you can create 3 guidelines, I'm sorry, from the top of the rectangular piece, and they will be at 5/8 of an inch, 1 1/4, and 1 7/8 of an inch. Okay. Once you have that done, we will need 2 additional guidelines, which are 1 3/8 of an inch away from the central guideline to the left and to the right side. Okay, like this. And I will connect those marks only up to the 2nd and the 3rd guideline, like that. Okay, now in order to create that opening for your hand to hold the toolbox, and in order to create it in a rounded shape, I did this. I took just a simple piece of paper, cardstock paper, okay, and I've used my corner chomper, the round one, with the side which is 1/2 inch. So I just rounded one of the corners, okay, and now I positioned it in each one of the corners of the rectangle that I drew here, rotating it correspondingly every time and aligning it perfectly well along the guidelines. And that way I was able to create the shape that will make it easier sliding your hand through the opening like that. Okay, and now I also want the whole piece to be rounded at the top, and for doing that, once again, I will use my pair of compasses, and I will need the radius of my circle, well, half circle or whatever, to be 3 1/8 of an inch. So this is what I'm measuring right now on the ruler. So I will place the needle in that point that I've marked before, and once again I will try to be precise. Okay, and I will draw the circular shape, which will start from the guideline, which is 1 1/4 of an inch away from the top section of our rectangle. Okay, so this is what you need to get, and then once again you will cut out the needed shape, getting rid of the pieces that will not make it any easier cutting the chipboard with the scissors. So I'm trimming them bit by bit and continuing to cut the shape that I want to get. Okay, like this. Once again, I will go over the edge with the sanding tool. Not too much, just a little bit to make it look prettier, like that. And as a finishing touch, we will of course need to use our craft knife or retractable knife in order to cut out the opening here. So how to do that, excuse me for the noise. Okay, let's think how it will be easier to get that done. I can cut out, at least to start cutting out the opening from the straight areas that I have, like this. Okay, and here on the side, just a little bit, about 1/2 inch only, here in the central area of the opening. And then you will need to gently work with your craft knife and keep it going till you cut the remaining rounded corners. Okay, here we go. So let me do that one more time, and all the rest I will cut out offline, I mean off camera, because I need to look closer. Okay, like that. Here we go. Now I want to say something. If you don't feel that you're able to do this, or your hand is not too strong or not too precise, you can always leave this opening rectangular and not to make all those rounded corners and stuff like that. But I just think that for the sake of the design, this shape right here would look better. Alright, so what I want to do now is this. As we do sand the edges of the chipboard after cutting them, and here I will not get with my sanding tool that I showed you before. I have these sanding metal files and I will use them for gently sanding the edges of the inside of the opening. Okay, like that. And I see that here I need to sand more. Okay, and I think that's enough now. Okay, so this is the shape of the opening that we've created right now, and we are ready to continue building our stand. Okay, great. Now we will continue to work with the chipboard pieces that you see right here on the table, and I will create some hinges in order to connect them together. I will be using the craft cardstock paper from Recollections, and I will need right now 6 hinges that measure 1 inch by 5. 4 of them I will fold so that the score tape that I've applied to them will be outside, and I've also mitered the corners of the hinges, and 2 more will be with the same measurements, 1 inch by 5 inch scored in the middle, but the score tape will be facing inside of the hinge. Okay, so I will take those 2 hinges first. I will remove the backing from 1/2 of the hinge, and I will attach the bottom piece of the chipboard. In other words, the chipboard piece on which the word bottom is stated, and I will attach the hinge to it so that the score line of the hinge will not be covered with the chipboard, because I need the hinge to be able to fold at a straight angle. I will do the same with the second hinge that has the score tape on the inside. Okay, like that. Now I can remove the backing from the second half of the hinge and take one of those pieces, which are 2 3/8 of an inch by 5, and I will attach them close to the edge of the chipboard of the bottom piece, and I will lift the hinge and then unfold. That way I will get a perfect spacing here in between both of the pieces that will be equal to the thickness of the chipboard that I'm working with. Okay, I do exactly the same way on the other side. Okay, and this is what we need to get so far. Now I will take this piece with the opening for the hands, for the hand, and I will take one of the hinges with the score tape facing outside of the hinge, and I will attach it along the very edge of the chipboard piece from one side and from the other side. Along the very edge. Okay, burnish. Now we will need to attach it just on top of that guideline that we have here. And this is what you need to get so far. The middle piece is attached to the bottom section of our future stand. Now you will take the remaining 2 hinges, you will remove the backing from 1/2 of the hinge of the score tape, and you will attach this piece just along the very edge of the chipboard, like this. Okay, up to the very edge, but not overlapping or covering the spacing here in between the chipboard pieces. We'll burnish, and you will do the same thing on the opposite side. Like this. And burnish. Now I will remove the backing from the second half of the hinge. I will fold in that side panel that I have. I will make sure that it is placed at a straight angle. And once again, I will burnish on that hinge like that. Okay, let's do the same from the other side. Okay, straight angle and burnish. I think I might use here another bone folder, which looks like this, and not my favorite little bone folder that I'm using all the time. Okay, so this is what we have now. I had second thoughts about the way that I originally wanted to do this, and that's the reason why I decided to do it differently. So you will need 2 additional pieces of chipboard that measure 4 1/8 of an inch by 2 3/8, and we will put them on top of our construction here on the sides, and only after that this whole thing will be attached to the circular side panels. Okay, so for attaching these walls to the construction that we have so far and reinforcing them with the hinges, you will need more of those hinges. So 4 of them will measure 2 3/8 of an inch by 1 inch. You will score them in the middle and put the score tape on the inside. And once again, I trimmed the corners at an angle. And we will need quite a few of those tiny hinges. So what I suggest you to do is to cut 3 long hinges other than those pieces. I prepared 3 long hinges. Right now they are 1 inch by 10 inches, and I scored them in the middle, and I placed the score tape on top on the side that will be facing up, because only for 4 of the hinges we will need the score tape on the inside. So I will reinforce that fold line first, and now I will cut them down to the size that I need, which is 8 additional hinges, should be 2 3/8 of an inch. Here they are, and 4 more that I will create from the third remaining long hinge, and they will be 1 7/8 of an inch long, and we'll place them in the areas here. Here they are. Okay, so we will start with them. Actually, we'll take them and we'll remove the backing from 1/2 of the hinge, and now we will attach each one of them in these areas, making sure that we glue them down just along the very edge of the chipboard, of the bottom section of our stand. Okay, this way and this way. Don't forget to burnish every time after you attach a hinge. Okay, like that. And now on this side, well, this project is all about the hinges. You need a lot of them since we have 2 compartments and several chipboard pieces that each one of them needs to be reinforced with a hinge. Okay, this way. Now 4 of the hinges, which are 2 3/8 of an inch by 1, with a score tape on the inside, I will glue down to the sides of the stand here, making sure that I do not overlap the score line. And please don't forget to burnish each one of the hinges once you attach them. Perfect. So now I will not get the proper access to the section right here. So what I want to do now is I want to cut the paper down to the size that I need, and that would be 4 7/8 of an inch by I think 1 3/4 should be enough. So I will already choose the paper that I want to work with, and that would be the Graphic 45 Floral Shoppe collection. So I will cut the paper down to the stated earlier size. I will distress the edges. Those pieces, although they will not even be seen as they're on the inside. Okay, and now I will glue both of them right here. Okay, here we go. So right now I will be taking each one of those panels that I've created before, and they measure, just to remind you, 4 1/8 of an inch by 2 3/8. So what I'll do next is this. I will be working with these panels. I will first remove the backing from the hinges that I have right here and that on this side of the stand. From all 4 of them. Yep. And now I will add some glue to the edges of the chipboard pieces, and even here to the central piece, up to something like 2 3/8 of an inch. Now I will place this chipboard piece right on top, and then I will make sure that all the edges are straight. I will glue this down, and this piece I will slowly move and see where exactly it needs to be. Well, I'd better do something else, you know that. I'd measure 1 1/16. Yeah, measuring. Okay, let's do it here and there. Well, it will stay as it is. So on this piece I will make a mark at 2 1/16 of an inch, and here as well, and it's just in the center of that piece, so that way I will know along which guideline exactly to align the central piece that I have here. Okay, so that's not a problem. On that side, I will work it out later. But on this side, let's do it as we should have done before. It would be the right thing to do. Okay, so once again, glue on the edges of the chipboard pieces. And now with that guideline facing down, I will first apply on top my panel, making sure that it's aligned along the bottom and along the sides. And now this piece here, I will hold down just a little bit and I will press with my fingers to make sure that it's stuck to the chipboard just in the center where that guideline was. Now I have to do the same here. So I will measure, okay, this is the center. So once at least one side is aligned, the second part of the box will align itself as well. Now we'll take each one of those 8 hinges that we have and we will remove the backing from each one of them and we will glue them down in each one of the corners of both of the compartments that we have. When you burnish the hinges on the side which is closer to the center, don't press too tight because you can actually ruin this whole piece. It's not finished yet, so be careful. Okay, great. So as you can see, I need to trim that down just a hair because it's a little bit higher than I need. Okay, so I'm trimming it down, removing the backing from both halves of the hinge, put it down straight in the corner and burnish. And this is the way of doing it. Okay, here we have all of the 8 corners finished and covered on the inside with the hinges. Okay, next we will need to cover this side of the panel and this side of the panel with the hinge, as well as the bottom sides right here. So for that I will need 2 hinges which measure, let's see, 4 1/8 by 1, and for covering these ones I will need 2 hinges which measure 5 1/8. So let me cut these down to the size. Okay, so the ones which are 4 1/8 of an inch will be very easy to attach. You will just align them along the edges from one corner to another corner. You will burnish on the side and then remove the backing from the second half of the hinge. Oh, I like to add glue here to the seam before wrapping it in. Okay, and now I will cover that part of the stand with the hinge. Okay, now from the other side I do the same. Okay, now to cover this part of the box with the hinge, I will need to trim one half of the hinge more than the other. So I will do it this way. Okay, so I will be covering the corners here with the hinge, but I will still be able to wrap it in inside. and get a good look of the finished project. Okay, so let's once again align from the very corner to another corner like that. Burnish, holding everything with your hand from the bottom, from the inside of the box. Now here I have that piece. I will add just a bit of glue to keep it down. Okay, now I can remove the backing and add some more glue to the edge of the chipboard and wrap the whole piece in, burnishing first to make sure that everything has been glued down. Okay, now I'm sorry that you cannot see that, but I'm burnishing there on the inside. Okay, like that. So let's do the same on the other side, and it's done. Okay, now these sides are left and this whole piece. As for the opening, I've decided to color it with acrylic paint of the matching color to the color of the cardstock that I'm working with. The matching shade of brown, and it's called Sycamore Bark. Let's take care of the part right here, which goes on top of the handle. I will use a strip of paper. In my case, it is 1 inch long by 11 inches, 1 inch wide by 11 inches long, and I scored it in the middle and attached score tape to both of the halves of the hinge. And what I do now is this. I will start to remove the backing from that hinge, and I will place it on top of the handle this way, from the very connection point, and like this. Okay, I will attach it at the very bottom. Now here I will need to make some cuts in order to be able to continue wrapping it around the handle. So I will find that place where the handle starts to curve, and I will make a cut, but not all the way till the end of that fold line, as I want it to be still connected. Okay, so I will do it like this. You know what? I will add some glue to the edge of the handle, and then I will start to slowly wrap my piece, and I want to place it exactly in the fold. Then I'm sorry for the limited view, but well, this is the way. I will make the cuts once again in the place where the curve ends. Okay, and then I will measure where exactly I need to cut this piece in order to get till the beginning of the section here. Okay, now I can wrap around this area of the handle and burnish. Okay, and now to be able to wrap it here, I will make some cuts every, about every 1/4 of an inch, like that. And now I will start to glue them down. But not in the areas here. So I have here 2 flaps, or maybe 3, that I will leave now. I will not fold them and I will not glue them down yet, as I want to shorten them. Okay, so 3 of these ones I will shorten just a little bit, and then I will attach them to the surface, maybe even this one. That's because I don't want them to be seen here in the opening. Okay, so let me quickly do the same from the other side. Okay, I'm shortening these guys down as well. Okay, now once I have that done, I can start to burnish on top. And I will, well, I don't know how to show it, as it will be just on the edge of my working surface, but what you have to do is basically put something underneath that piece and then burnish really good on top from this side and from this side. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, like this. All right. And the next step is to cover these edges with additional hinges. So I will cut 2 hinges that will be 4 1/8 of an inch long, like this. Okay, so I will take one of them, remove the backing from 1/2 of the hinge, and I will attach it right here from one corner to the other, aligning it as straight as I can. Burnish. Okay, and now we will need to make some cuts. So the first cut I make at an angle from this side, and the other one from this side. And then this piece which is left, I cut, leaving about 1/16 of an inch right here, and you will now understand why we do that. Now from this side I will cut it that way at a curve, because I wanted to reach to the inside, but I still needed to cover the corner, the outside corner of my box. Okay, so now I remove the backing, and also the backing from the tiny little piece that we left. Okay, oops, cannot take it out. Okay, I add the glue to the edge of the chipboard, and I wrap first the flaps on the sides, and then I use my bone folder in order to glue down that tiny little piece of paper that will help me to cover the middle here, the middle section of the chipboard. Okay, just shape it with your bone folder for getting a good result and a good look. Now burnish on the inside, and basically our stand, or at least its middle section, is done. I will do the same now from this side without showing it on camera. I will do it off camera and get back to you. And it's done. Okay, now you can mat with the designer paper. Oh, sorry, not these panels. This one do not embellish with paper, and this one do not embellish, but you can embellish this section and this and the rectangular panels on the inside right here, as well as the inside panels right here. That, in case you don't plan to add any metal embellishments to the front of your panels right here, because if you do, you will embellish then these panels with the designer paper first. You will attach all the metal pieces that you have with the brads, and then you will cover the insides with the designer paper as well, to cover all those tails of the brads on the inside of the stand. Let's get to preparing the rounded side panels for our stand, and for that we will work with the chipboard pieces that we've prepared earlier, and we will glue them down to, well, you will make two of these, but I will show you now how to create the first one, and then the second one will not be a problem to create. So you will need a piece of cardstock which measures 6 inches by 5.5. This is the piece that I have here underneath the chipboard piece, and as you can see, I've already glued it down to save some time. Now we will need to make some cuts, so I will start from here. At the bottom, I will cut at an angle all the way from the outside bottom edge of the cardstock up to the chipboard here in the corners, and then I will actually cut a triangular piece of cardstock off to get this like so. And now I will be cutting all the way around the circle, leaving about, well, I don't know, about 3/8 of an inch of cardstock. Don't have to be very exact, but try to leave not less than 3/8 of an inch, because then it will be a bit more difficult to wrap your chipboard piece with that cardstock. Okay, so now all the way around we will cut that cardstock at every 1/4 of an inch, I guess. Funny thing that seems like we will not need all those guidelines that we've created on the chipboard piece, but we will get to that later on. So for example, well, not all of them, but only these 3 guidelines we will not need, but once again we will get to that. Okay, so now it's time to wrap everything in, and I will begin with the piece here at the bottom. I will add some glue to the outer edge of the chipboard piece itself. Here at the very edge of it, and then to the rest of the cardstock. Now let me take a piece of paper in case some of the glue leaks through to my mat. Okay, now we'll start with that. Now I will also add a bit of glue all the way around the edge of the chipboard piece. Not a lot, just really a small amount of glue. Okay, and now we will start to wrap this, but not all the way. We only need to train the paper to fold in the way we want it to fold. Okay, like that. And now I will slowly start to apply glue. I will apply the glue to a few flaps that I've prepared, and I will start my way in folding those around the chipboard. Okay, so when you do that, try to kind of pull the paper towards yourself and then round and shape the edge of it with your bone folder to make it look better. And once you do that, you will know what I'm talking about. So just keep on going. And I apply glue to the flaps themselves and not to the chipboard because, well, I tried both ways and I find this way easier for me to work in. So you can do it differently if you feel like it's more convenient for you. Okay, and let's keep on going till we get to the end, and this should be the result so far. Okay, burnish on those tiny flaps and all the way around the shape that you have. Okay, now if you distress the edges, do it now, and I will do it from both sides all the way around and also on the edge. Okay, here we go. It's all distressed, and now we need to mat this. So one piece I've already matted with the designer paper of my choice. So I will show you how to prepare the paper pieces for matting this kind of shape. I will do it on plain white paper for you to be able to see where exactly I draw and what, because on this paper that I have here, it's really hard to see all the guidelines. So you will start with the 5 by 5 inch square, and as usual, to find the center of it, you will draw diagonal lines from one corner of the square to the opposite one. And you will also, on one side, by the way, keep in mind that if you're working with directional paper, and I want it, for example, to be placed like this on my shape, so I will draw that line on the paper if the stripes go that way, for example. Yeah, I will draw the line which stands 1/2 inch away from the bottom of the square on this side, and then I will need to cut that off. Okay, so let's say we'll do it this way. Now on my ruler, I will measure the radius of my circle, which is 2.5 of an inch, well, you cannot see because of the lighting, but let me put that down for you here. The radius will be 2.5 of an inch, so I put my needle at the intersection point of two of the guidelines that I've created, and I draw a circle. And now I cut that all the way around except for this section here at the bottom. Whoops. Okay, all the way around. Oh, I will not do that very clean right now, just to save the time once again. Okay, and this is your piece ready to be placed on the front and at the bottom side of the side panel. This is not completely exact because I was in a hurry, but here are the pieces that I've prepared in the very same way, and they are good to be glued down to our panel. So I can discard that. Okay, and I will glue down the paper to the panel now. Okay, so this piece will be from the inside, and the one with the flowers will be on the outside. Now, one important thing is concerned, once again, matting the element that we are working with the designer paper. Excuse me. If you plan to add any metal embellishments that you want to attach with the brads to this side of the stand, and it will be facing like that once you're done. It will be glued down like that to the stand itself. So keep in mind that you need to place all the brads before attaching this piece to the main part of the stand, and before matting the back of the panel with another piece of the designer paper. Okay, so I do not plan to attach any metal pieces to this side, so I will just take my glue and I will glue all the pieces down to the chipboard. Okay, this is done. Now I think you can see that a guideline that I have on both pieces that I'm going to glue down to the stand, and this guideline is 3.25 of an inch away from the bottom of the rounded chipboard piece that I have. So you can either measure in two places on the panel itself, or you can use your cutting mat in order to draw that guideline. So I'm just placing it along one of the lines that I have on the mat, and then 3/4 of an inch away I draw a line using my pencil. Okay, so this line will help us now to know where exactly we want to glue down the main section of our stand, and it will be glued down like this. So I'm looking at the guideline and I just center this piece from the left and from the right side, trying to stay close to the line that I've created. So how I suggest that you glue it down, I think the best way is to use score tape on the edges and on the inside of this panel, to use either wet glue or hot glue, whatever you prefer. I think I will use hot glue. I've already heated my glue gun, so I'm good to go with that. I will apply score tape now. that will help all that construction stay in place till the hot glue cools down and keeps it in place as well. Okay, let's burnish. Now let's remove the backing. Oops. Okay, I hope it will be okay. Like that. And now, okay, let's see that I have everything ready. And here is my glue gun. I need to work fast. Okay. Great. Now, excuse me if you don't see everything, but I do exactly as I've explained to you before. Okay, great. This side is done. Okay, perfect. And now this side. Okay, here is the guideline. Now, once again, I will apply hot glue. Okay, and I will glue that down while centering it from the left and the right side. Okay, great. I think it's ready now. And here is our cute little stand that still needs to be embellished, of course. But I like the fact that we don't need to use any feet for the stand, as this section already serves as the feet of the stand. And it's really easy to carry it from one place to another. So basically what's left to do is to embellish it either on this side or on the panels here, or you can also tie a ribbon on the handle or glue a flower here as an additional embellishment. One more thing that I would want to share is about these plastic inserts that I thought would be a nice addition to this project. If you plan to store anything like, I don't know, maybe scissors or maybe pens in this stand, sometimes the ink can leak, or the scissors, if they're not covered with this case, they can scratch the paper, and it would be a real pity to ruin your work. So to prevent that from happening, you can easily prepare this plastic insert, which is transparent and cannot be seen, well, can barely be seen once it will be inside the box. And then you will not be afraid of scratching your paper here at the bottom, or if the ink will leak, or if the pencil will accidentally draw something on the paper, that will not be on the paper but on the plastic. And with time you will be able to prepare another plastic, and this way to keep your project safe from harm. Let's put it that way. So for preparing the insert, you will need a plain plastic sheet, acetate sheet, acrylic sheet. They're called in different ways all around the world. So this piece here measures 9 3/8 of an inch on the long side by 6 and 3/8 on the short side, and you will score it at 2 1/4 of an inch at each of the 4 sides. So here 2 1/4, 2 1/4, 2 1/4, and 2 1/4, and then you will cut off the rectangular pieces in the corners, and you will get this shape. To make it look better, you will just round the corners of the flaps with your corner chomper, like that. Okay, like this, here and here, and on these corners, these and these. And that's it. You will fold it and place inside. So I think that would be all for today. I will not be showing how to embellish the stand, because it's really it really depends on the embellishments that you have and on the mood, and I don't know, on your style. I still am not sure about the way how I will embellish mine, but you definitely have already seen the ready-made project in the beginning of this tutorial, so you already know something that I do not know at this stage. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you learned some new techniques and some new things from this tutorial. If you did, I will be happy if you subscribe to my channel or visit me on Instagram. I will post the link to my account in the description box down below. And if you have made anything following my tutorial, I would be happy if you tag me, especially on Instagram. Just add a hashtag ClayGuana, and I will see what you have made. So once again, have a nice day, and bye-bye.